Welcome to episode 2 of my DT175 Scrambler build. Welcome to episode 2 of the ag bike build, guys. I hope you're all well. It's been a couple of weeks since I filmed the last episode and we've finally got some parts. These are the original shocks off of a 1975 AG175. Now I'm not sure if these are the factory shocks, but that's what was on there when I got it. These are RFX 2A adjustable shocks with progressive springs. Now they are very similar in overall length. However, these should be a little bit lighter than what these are, but with the option to stiffen them if we need to. The other very important part that has arrived is my new ignition barrel. So this is just a generic one. I believe this actually suits a Honda. I think they said in the listing, but it doesn't really matter. It was just the only metal bodied case that I could find with a decent key. So I've got to find a place to store this on the bike, and then we'll wire that in and get that working today, hopefully. Now the first problem I'm facing is I actually can't put the shocks on yet because of this damn exhaust tip thing that they've welded on here, because that's actually where the reservoir sits for the shock. So I've got to get the grinder out, we'll cut that off, and then we'll see how much other work we need to do to get the shocks on. This is the original bolt that holds the original shocks in. That's the hole on the shocks. As you can see, that's not going to work anymore. Luckily I have some sort of suspension bolts off of some project. These actually might be off of a E46 BMW looking at them. But they are the perfect fit and the perfect size, and they already have a flat spot on them so that we don't wear the threads down while these are being used. And luckily I have exactly 4 of them. That's why you never throw funky bolts away. So I had to run down to Bunnings and get myself a tap and die set because the one that I have didn't go big enough, and a couple of nuts and a couple of washers. Now the thread on the new bolt is a 12mm by 1.75mm coarse thread. The original was like 8, so it's a big difference. But there's a lot of meat left in the frame. So on the top of the frame, I'm actually going to weld a nut to the back side of it once we've got the holes drilled. And on the bottom, I'm hoping to re-tap the original thread, but to the right size. So the issue I've got at the moment is that the shock body seems to be physically too large to fit into this area. I can't really get the camera in there to explain, but it's not working for me. It's essentially what's happening. And I'm wondering at this point if it's better to trim down the shock housing a bit, and if that's even an option. I could grind down the top of the shock a little bit, but is that actually going to solve anything? Or am I better off cutting this off and making a new shock mount? Decisions, decisions, decisions. Well, I'm not really happy about it, but it looks like the easiest option here is going to be cut this out, this section, and we'll make a new one. It's not really what I was looking to do, but I think it's the only way this is going to work the way I'm trying to make it work. So let's get to cutting.
I heard they checking for me, no one checking on me, so I had to go run up a check. I got the message on me, ain't no flexing on me, my attorney gon' call and collect. Blessings on blessings for me, my successes only made them envious, they got upset. I had to put all their egos in check. I want the money, the power, respect, and I heard you know so-and-so, you not a threat, cause I really know so-and-so, they like my family, so they go pretend that they cool till they busted your motherfucking chest. I'm getting gutter, my flow been like butter, my check in the bank, they see the number. All of my haters feel one of two ways, really upset or they show some respect. I can't even think about it, I've been up, so read about it, no beat around it, straight to it, no ring around it. You coming for me, we'll see about it, we'll never see it when I kick my feet up. 100 meters where I run the fee up, and go ka-ching and onomatopoeia. I had to re-up on a reel, so you
Alright, so this is what we're left with. So, as you can see, I've had to cut out quite a bit of metal here, just to allow room for this. Also, as this shock travels up, it does swing out a little bit. So that's why I've left a couple of mil clearance there, just so that as it does pivot up, we shouldn't have any issues.
They got upset. I had to put all their egos in check. I had to put all their egos in check. You're not entitled to anything else. I get 10 years of this under my belt. Your art is an art, they don't feel it, and nobody hears it. Initiative stay on the shelf. Your ego done got in the way. It gotta die today. It gotta go. You should be happy I lighten the load. The weight of your arrogance, heavy as stone. I make an appearance, they already know. That chip on your shoulder gon' crumble and fold, yeah. It's not a secret that you have been fearing the shit that I'm on. So you back to the brag and the boast. But I'm in a class of my own. I heard they checking for me, no one checking on me, so I had to go run up a check. I got the message on me, ain't no flexing on me, my attorney gon' call and collect. Blessings on blessings for me, my successes only made them envious, they got upset. I had to put all their egos in check.
So the shock mounts are pretty much done now. Welded everything up, I've smoothed it out. I wanted to keep the weld on the very top of it because I want it to look somewhat factory. I know anyone who knows these old Yamahas will know straight away this is wrong. But that's not the point, it's about all the people who don't know the old Yamahas. So that's done now. It's very hot as well, I shouldn't touch it. The only thing I've got left to do is I want to trim the back section of the frame, but I might do that later. I actually want to go and buy a Dremel so that I can clean up all the little bits that I can't get with the angle grinder, but I haven't got one yet. So that will be a later thing, maybe we can get to that when we finish the frame off and we do the underside of the engine mount. You know, there's a little bit of stuff to tidy up before we paint it, but that's future problems. So next I think we'll get the engine back in, we'll get the exhaust on, or dummy fitted at least. This might not be the actual exhaust that we use, but I just want to sort of see how it's going to go. And then I want to figure out where our ignition switch is going to go so we can make a little bracket up. I'm thinking probably in this general area, but I'm not really sure. I think the exhaust is going to kind of come through here, so you don't really want to have to be messing around near the exhaust to turn the bike off and on. So I don't know, we'll have a look though. That would pretty much sum it up. Then I think we should run the wiring loom, get that part sorted out, especially while the engine's in the frame. I don't really want to put it in and out multiple times if I can avoid it, so we'll get that part done. Let's get the engine in, let's get that exhaust dummy fitted on, and then let's just figure it out as we go, I suppose. Tell you what, I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but like, I'm pretty stoked with how my welds are turning out recently. Anyway, so that's the first mount done. That goes into a thread that's welded on. So I'll get the muffler figured out. I cut the mount off the muffler. There was a mount on the back section there. So essentially, that's gonna now get turned and sit something like that. So I'll probably make a mount off of here, back to the frame. I was trying to use this bolt for the shock, try to make up a little mount off that, but I don't think it's going to work, unfortunately. Anyway, I'll get back to you once I've figured out what I'm doing next here. I have the whole exhaust mounted now. The only issue is that where the expansion chamber meets the engine, it's being pushed back and compressed and sort of buckled the whole outlet. So what we're going to do is try to heat it up with a blowtorch and then pull it back out. I did look and I can only buy an aftermarket expansion chamber and they're about $600, and it's a pretty big investment just for an exhaust on a bike that doesn't run yet. So we're going to try and fix the one that we've got. And if we can't fix it, then we will look at trying to find a second hand one.
Yeah, hit the ground and it go up. Yeah, run it. Ooh, I really feel it's my time, think it's my year. Yeah, I really feel it's my time, think it's my year. Yeah, I really feel it's my time, think it's my year. Yeah, I really feel it's my time, think it's my big dog, walking big talk. Yeah, I'm veteran, living legend, bet I'm better than them. This is my shit, I'ma check it like let them in. Y'all better not let them in, they gon' rotate it, so I keep the pedaling, started a chain. The cycle is heaven sent, this is from God.
So after a bit of negotiation, it is done. It is far from perfect, but it will be much better than what we had before. The only other real thing holding us up at the moment is this bracket and the rear wheel situation. Now I have actually purchased 2 different rear wheels for this, including this one, and 3 different axles with 3 sets of spacers, and for some reason none of them seem to work. The combination I can't get any way of that working. But I would like to have another attempt at it today, see what we can come up with and see what we can make work. So my first big issue with using this new rear wheel was that the brake comes with a slot in it, whereas the factory setup comes with a rod and a pin. Luckily, I bought a wheel off of I think it was a middle, like 75 or 80, similar shape to this, but not an ag bike, DT, with the same sort of brake setup. So I can make this rod work, get those two to hold each other, happy days. The issue I've got now is that the spacers that I need to make this axle work don't work. This axle's out of the later model, and the later model rear swing arm is thicker here. So I need to space it out on the ends, but nothing wants to fit. So I'll show you what we're working with. So after some negotiation, this is what we have. I have a nut holding the wheel on that side, and I have a nut holding the wheel on this side. The issue we've got though is that the front sprocket and the rear sprocket do not line up at all. As you can see, they are about probably 10 mil out, which is about the same width as the nut that I have on there. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to have to replace these studs and nuts with bolts. That will allow me to remove that nut and bring the wheel a bit closer to the subframe, which will hopefully line everything back up. I also cleaned up the drum. It looks a lot nicer. I might actually polish that at some point, just to make it look a bit fancy. The fix I got on the wheel there is only a temporary fix, which may turn into a permanent fix if I can't find a better solution, but I actually bought 3 ag bikes the other day. Now, originally I was going to flip them all, do them up and flip them, which is something I actually do on the side, and you will see random bikes in the background from time to time that you don't see in episodes. So me and a mate of mine actually flip bikes as a bit of a side hustle. But I might end up stealing some parts off of one of them to make this rear wheel work if I can't find any other solution. While I'm waiting to figure out what I'm going to do there, I'm going to hang the wiring loom on this and sort of figure out what's going on with the rest of it. But I think that's going to be it for this episode. Now, if you're interested in the shirt that I'm wearing at the moment, they are available on our website, and I will leave the link below. If you want to see more of the build, don't forget to subscribe. If you've got any questions or tips, leave a comment. See you on the next one.